Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Adam.
Hey, we've got more good sales news for the Switch, which, despite well-publicized shortages, especially here in North America, has managed to dominate the console competition recently, also in North America, so I guess those shortages not holding it back.
It's another sign that the Switch train continues to roll a little more than 6 months after its release. Turns out that despite the fact that most of everyone owns a smartphone, there's still a demand for a home console that's portable too.
The latest sales news comes from the monthly NPD numbers for August, revealing the top sellers in video games for the US, and from the looks of it, the Switch is continuing to hold its blockbuster pace, outselling both the PS4 and the Xbox One last month.
The Switch has held those honors for 4 out of the 6 months since it launched. However, the juggernaut that is the PS4 still remains the best-selling console of the year. NPD isn't providing exact numbers, but that's still a sign that the Switch is continuing to hold its early momentum.
Which is great, since
Yeah.
the Wii U didn't.
Yeah, which can only mean good things for Nintendo. At the end of the day, everything is driven by console sales. If more people own a console, it means more developers will make games for it, leading to even more people buying it, and so on.
It's like the positive
The circle
cycle
of life.
Right, it's the good kind instead of like the circle down into nobody playing it. Now, we don't have an up-to-date total for the number of Switches sold from Nintendo themselves, but we do know that through June, it sold 4.7 million units in a roughly 4-month span, which is great considering, how that stacks up to other recent Nintendo consoles. It does very, very well. The Wii U sold 3.4 million units in that period of time, and that was its heaviest selling point. The 3DS sold 4.3 million units in that same time frame. Meanwhile, the Wii sold 5.8 million units in its 4 months, so that was up a bit, and the DS sold more than 5.2 million units in the same time period. The Wii ended up going on to sell more than 101 million units over its lifespan, the DS 154 million, the 3DS around 65 million, and the poor Wii U died selling less than 14 million.
Sheesh.
That was not a great generation for Nintendo.
Yeah. So it looks like the Switch started out more popular than the Wii U and 3DS, but behind the Wii and the DS just a little bit. In fairness, though, those last two are Nintendo's most popular consoles of all time.
Still, it's good to be chasing them.
Yeah.
It's a good company to be in that range.
Yeah. It's worth remembering, though, that the Switch has been really hard to find for a lot of people, and it almost certainly would have sold more if supplies were better.
Although, we will never know what that alternate future looks like in terms of exact numbers. It just becomes speculation from there. Meanwhile, it makes sense that the Switch would be outselling the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in recent months, considering they're both pretty deep into their lifespans at this point, and this is the Switch's first year out. But still.
Yeah, regardless, that's an impressive start for the Switch, and its popularity means good things, especially more third-party games.
We're getting Doom, guys!
Because while some developers were wary of the Switch's chances at first, we've seen its success start to bring them on board.
And Wolfenstein 2.
Yes.
During the Nintendo Direct that was earlier this week, the company announced portable versions of, as we said, Doom, Wolfenstein 2. They're both going to make their way to the Switch. Rockstar Games said they're going to be porting LA Noire to the Switch, along with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in a re-release of that game. And they're doing a VR version, which actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah? That's a pretty good sign that developers think there's money to be made on Switch ports, given the popularity of the console. Analyst Atul Goyal told Business Insider that LA Noire port is an example of third-party support for the console happening faster than he predicted.
Although that's also thought to be potentially a bit of an appetite test. If it does well, then maybe Rockstar will add more support for the Switch. If not, maybe they'll write it off. We'll see. But when we see supplies of the Switch finally catch up to demand. Now, it's getting a little bit better. We are starting to see them on shelves for longer than like 5 minutes after they get into stores, but Nintendo seems to be caught a little bit off guard by the popularity of the hybrid console. And there's also a shortage of memory chips needed to make it due to the fact that they're also used in smartphones like the iPhone and a lot of other electronics.
And the supply issues might continue for a while. Recently, Nintendo of America's president Reggie Fils-Aimé said that the Switch still might be in short supply going into the holiday season.
Yeah, Fils-Aimé said, certainly the demand is there and our supply chain is there, but then he added, are we going to have enough for the holiday? That's what we're focused on, which is distressingly vague.
And that could be a problem, considering that the holidays are when console sales are the highest, as people buy them as gifts. Lots of people thought that the reason the Switch launched so early in the year is so Nintendo could work out the kinks and as kind of a soft launch before the holiday season really began.
Right, which, to be fair, they kind of have done. The supply is getting a little bit better. A lot of the early hardcore adopters now have it, so that opens up the market a little bit to the more mainstream consumer who's buying gifts for Christmas, that sort of thing. It's still a little bit tricky. Remember how the Wii was very, very difficult to find early on in its life cycle? We had that lady die during a radio contest just trying to win one. Still though, if you own a Switch, Nintendo's been pumping out a pretty steady supply of good games from the start. It's about to start rolling out the big guns as we approach the holiday season. Next on deck is the hugely anticipated Super Mario Odyssey and Mario's Nipples. Releases on October 27th, followed by another exclusive, Xenoblade Chronicles. That's December 1st. Meanwhile, LA Noire comes to the Switch November 14th. Skyrim will arrive on November 17th. Doom and Rocket League are scheduled for the holiday as well. We don't have exact dates for those yet.
So yeah, the good news keeps on rolling for Nintendo. Now only if they'd make more Switches.
That would be pretty nice. I think that it could be tricky for this holiday. There's a fine line to walk if you've got a shortage of consoles. On the one hand, it does tend to create more demand, and there's this fervor to try to get one. On the other hand, if this goes on too long and they're too hard to get, people can just sort of get frustrated and write it off.
Yep.
But what do you guys think of the latest Switch sales numbers, the fact that it's doing so well? Is it a fad? Here to stay? Let us know in the comments.
And for all your Nintendo news, be sure to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the know.
And if you do have a Switch, go download the Octopath Traveler demo. It's awesome. They surprise announced it during the Direct and said, by the way, demo right now.
Go get it.
It's great.
Analyst Atul Goyal told Business Insider that the LA Noire port is an example of a third-party fuck.